we have not understood or given our attention to the final solution of things. Now, the final solution of things is also a matter of acceptances. When a person follows a wrong pattern for enough years, a good pattern will hurt him or make him feel uncomfortable. He will not want to change, even though he realizes that his present course is fatal. He does not want to understand life, even though he knows that he must sometime face a change. He is just beginning to think seriously about life after death. And he is not yet able to create a philosophical insight or a mystical insight strong enough to comfort him in the years as they come to an end. All of this is part of a little plan, a little pattern which we have to live by within the great pattern. And our only great hope or ability to handle this situation is through the complete reorganization of the processes of the mind. We've got to do something to get the tyranny of the mind off of our backs, for it rides us as the old man of the sea in the story of Sindbad the Sailor. Now, in this problem also, we have another factor. What is this mysterious energy that is released by the bomb? Years ago, we had here on the Los Angeles Times a science commentator who wrote a daily column. I think his name was Lal, and he was a Hindu. But he wrote for many years. And I remember that in one of his columns, he discussed the fact that it appears that the ancient Hindus knew about the atomic bomb. He said, for example, and I suppose anyone who wants to can check it, that in the Ramayana, which is one of the great classics of India, it's a sort of like the Odyssey and the Iliad of the Greeks, a magnificent epic poem, that in the Ramayana, Sita, the wife of the avatar Rama, is kidnapped and taken to the island of Lanka, Ceylon, which has now become Lanka again, by an evil king known as Ravana. And Rama gathered a great army and gained the assistance of the king of the apes. And all together they built a bridge and invaded Lanka and rescued Sita. But the point that is interesting is that it is said in the book that Ravan, the evil king of Lanka, became so angry when he realized that his cause had failed that he shouted and screamed and tore and went about with such terrific combustion that, to use the statement in the book, it was as though an atom had been split. Now, whether this is understood correctly or not, we don't know, but it is an interesting thought that when you get very angry, go into hysteria, maybe some kind of an atom is getting split. There is an irrational release of energy. There is a tremendous power breaking through that is going nowhere. A great temper fit is a tremendous tempest. Perhaps it is an atomic bomb to the physical body. And if it gets far enough out socially, it can be a bomb disrupting society. A false, negative, destructive release of energy from within ourselves can be fatal, not only to our own lives, but to perhaps the whole society to which we belong. Therefore, the problem, first of all, to follow the Buddhist concept, would be that the individual has no reason to fear the bomb, or fear any of the types of emergency that result from Ravan becoming angry. Actually, there is no essential difference. agency that result from Ravan becoming angry. Actually, there is no essential difference. All things that exist will be dissipated. Each living thing, without a bomb, will depart in its proper time. And according to the Buddhist concept of life, these departures are simply not important. It is not important to live long or to die young. It is important to gain growth, to unfold the inner potentials of life, and to make proper use of energy allotment for an embodiment. And when that embodiment is finished, the information, the soul power that has been gained is built into a permanent being, and there it remains to contribute to the ultimate perfection of all that lives. Therefore, regardless of anything, if human beings wish to destroy themselves, they cannot even succeed in that, because the only thing they can destroy is the physical body, and they're going to lose that anyway. Now, it may be an uncomfortable way of losing it. It may be a difficult and dangerous way, but so it is a difficult and dangerous way when a plane comes down. It is a dangerous and difficult way when a great explosion causes a building to collapse. It is a long and difficult way when some wasting ailment remains slowly destroying life. All these things are difficult, but the essential principle of all life is growth. To learn, to know, to do, to be, and to develop internal resource. And the less we think about our own immortality, the more the fact of its necessity will be forced on us. We will be made to face these things simply because we have refused to consider them constructively when we were in good health. When the world was at peace, temporarily at least, we did not have sense enough to protect the peace. When the individual had a moment of rest from pressures, he didn't have the sense to rest. He kept on wasting energy, time, and life, and it finally catches up with him. Civilizations waste the opportunity to grow. Great cultural systems fade away because they are not sustained by the people who need them most. So nature continues its own quiet course. And this little planet on which we live will continue. Man will not destroy his planet. But he will finally learn that it is absolutely necessary to live here according to universal law and not according to personal whimsy. It will be necessary for him to gain a certain insight and realize that he is a servant of a power that he must obey. Within a certain range, he has the power of individual choice. He can choose to do certain things. He has ample opportunity for constructive pleasures. He can accomplish many wonderful, wonderful things within the pattern of law. But it must be in a lawful pattern. In the story of Buddha, perhaps one of the most interesting and important incidents, of course, is the Great Enlightenment. The illumination of Buddha under the Bo tree is described in the sacred scriptures as an almost inconceivable vision. But nearly all great religions have such visions in connection with their great spiritual leaders. With Buddha, the earth opened. Beings arose from the deep. From the sky descended hordes of divine beings from the 10 regions of space. Every type of thing was revealed in an enormous burst of light. And in the midst of it, the aspirant, the ascetic Gautama, remained quietly at peace, surrounded by a bedlam, a tremendous explosion that shook the earth to its foundations. For it was said The fountains in cities 1,000 miles away reversed their courses. The oceans retreated. The rivers ceased to flow. The mountains trembled and fell. And in all, it sounds very much as though the bomb had been set off. Is it possible, and here I can't really speak for Buddha, and he might not agree with me, it's always possible, but does this story tell us of what you might call a nuclear fission on the positive side of life? Is there a tremendous potential of divinity locked in things? Can the fission or nuclear action result in a release of a complete cosmic power, a power that can be beneficial? If this power is released through the ascetic, through the mystic, through a mystical experience, it then and that way only means that the cell of consciousness within each of us has split. And out of that comes cosmic consciousness. Out of that comes the one great experience of illumination. Is illumination the soul fission within the human being himself? Can it also occur to a world in misery and pain? Is it the final release of the overself? Is what we could call a mystical experience carried to an extraordinary degree result in the sudden distribution, diversification of the individual? Or as we find in the book of the Great Decease of Buddhism, where Buddha declares that he will not return again as a person, but will return again in every living thing. This could be the result of a self, absolutely abstracted, turned into an immeasurable number of vital factors which take up their abode in everything that lives. Is this not the possible explanation also of the statement of Paul, Christ in you, the hope of glory? Is this Christ in you, or the Buddha in us, or you, actually the infinite diffusion of consciousness? Is it possibly the actual vision of the cosmic cell at the root of our own individual existence? If so, then it can become and should be the most powerful religious experience of which the human being is capable. It may result in the complete dissolution of the personality. In fact, it is well known, possible, in the Oriental system, that the personality is gradually disseminated throughout all living things. Is it possible that evolution is the gradual fission of a cell of consciousness within each evolving creature? Does each creature have locked within itself the infinite power of the complete existence in the universe? Are we bound to the universe by a cell in ourselves that can expand and become even more wonderful and remarkable than any nuclear fission we can imagine, but a great fission in the term of constructive spiritual integrity, that suddenly the individual's consciousness becomes diffused through all living creatures everywhere? That this is the final renunciation. This is the fulfillment of the ultimate Buddha obligation, namely, that the power of enlightenment shall pass from the individual to become part of the consciousness of everything that lives. This is a thought that in passing might be a rather intriguing one. We know the mystical experiences are recorded and mentioned in a great many books, in a great many different systems of religion. We know that we have evidence that at a certain point in the life of the individual under discipline, there comes a power or ability to transcend the factor of self. Is it therefore the factor of self that stands between each of us and our own universality? Is it the factor of self by which we lock ourselves into the personalities which we know? And is there any ultimate salvation for the self-centeredness within us? What is this self? Buddha says it is an aggregate. It is the result of the sensory perceptions and the mental coordinator. The self is therefore not a being, but a focal point. And that this focal point stands in deadly interval between us and our real inner realities. That this focal point has become what we like to call the ego. And it is the basis of the egoism or egotism in ourselves. It is this focal point which enables us to sense ourselves as separate beings, that we are divided one from the other, that each one has this selfness in it. And this selfness is, of course, the aggregate of experience over many lives, built into a pattern which we might call an individuality, by which we separate ourselves from all other individuals. As long as this separateness continues, is our divine nature able to manifest itself. Life is universal. Form is particular. That we should live in a body makes us a separate being. If we transcend that body, either through consciousness or through evolution, then we are moving toward union. All evolution is the binding up of the wounds of separateness. All evolution is our own life expanding more and more and including more and more of the life around us. Sometime each individual must include every living thing within the area and order of his own insights. Sometime we will know how other creatures feel, and we will know how other people think. We will experience it, not through the strange insecurity of words and things of this nature, but because the gradual unfoldment, expansion of the inner life, which is a kind of gradual nuclear fission, will come finally to carry light to the furthest parts of existence, and with that light our own comprehending power. The power of the individual to escape from the isolation of selfness into the greater union of common insights and common understanding. It is only when this insight increases and expands that we can possibly hope to solve the political problems of society. We cannot solve our problems by trying to convert each other. We have to solve our problems ultimately by releasing light from within, a light which, shining as a mysterious spiritual kind of light, permits us to share the inner life of other people. We must have a light from ourselves that can shine into them and see them inwardly as we now see them outwardly. And as we see them qualitatively by the light of consciousness, we will then understand their motives, understand their peculiarities and their problems, and will find the necessary charity to build a better world. Now, the question always is being asked now by physicists and people in these fields, how worlds are born. They think they see stars coming into existence, great bursts of light in space. Do planets and stars come into existence as a result of division, a nuclear fission, in which a tiny cell, less than a mustard seed, suddenly releases within it a power greater than the human being can comprehend? Can we face this? Can we realize, as we do now, the incredible energy, the incredible power, the unbelievable life locked within a single cell? Can we see this and sense it, and not realize that in some mysterious way we ourselves, and that this same kind of life is locked within us, that in somewhere in the depths of ourselves is the power to shake the world to its foundation, a power to expand our own inward life until we too become universal. The question has always been, where does evolution go? It would appear that evolution would go towards the constant unfolding of the power of this nuclear cell within ourselves, which is the divine power. As far as we know, nuclear fission has come the closest of anything that we have experienced to the realization of the infinite power at the source of existence. A power that is not only a tremendous physical energy, but we're going to learn ultimately that this power has also a great moral code. The nuclear fission experiment involves a release not only of power, but of laws. Laws, rules, and patterns that we did not know before will come into force. Everything we discover we must either use or abuse. If we use it well, it advances us. If we abuse it, it destroys us. And the same will be true in nuclear fission. If we use this power, it can advance our destinies immeasurably. If we abuse it, it can whip back at us with a tremendous reaction, a reaction which is only an aspect of karma because we deserve it. Here we have gone along for thousands of years, failing almost completely to experience the mysteries of our own birthright. We have gone along year after year, generation after generation, nation and race after one after another, without actually getting down to the great facts of life. Some have felt that these facts cannot be known, but the truth of the matter is that we have not tried to find them. We have used one little tiny bit of energy in the search for truth, and all the rest of our energy in the search for profit. And this problem has locked us within a situation which is contrary to God's will and natural law. We know that nearly all sickness in life is due to obstruction. Nearly everything that moves and has its proper circulation functions normally, whereas obstruction leads to congestion and death. We have for ages obstructed the flow of life. We have failed to use the potential that we have for the good of ourselves and others. We have settled down to the assumption that life in us is simply an energy by which we can create physical things. It is the power to hit the nail with the hammer, and that's all. We have never realized that the skills that we have and the intricate nervous structure that we possess, that all these different powers and others unknown and unconsidered at the moment, all of these point to the fact that there is a potential in man that is inconceivable. There is a potential that nothing has as yet really attempted to understand. Even our theologies have not gone far enough to teach us these mysteries. We do not know what to do with the life we have, and we therefore waste it. Religion and philosophy can help us, but they cannot compensate for the fact that we do not apply in daily living the rules and principles that would make life unfold. In other words, the cell in us, whatever it may be, grows and is willing to grow and can grow and takes advantage of every step forward. And the more we become thoughtful, careful, wise, and gentle people, the more this inner life expands, until finally this ultimate expansion is the great mysterious illumination seen in the Buddhist patterns and mandalas. It is the gradual expansion of an inconceivable light within ourselves, a light that we all possess, a light that is also our life. For without it we could not live. And because we are alive, and because everything in the universe is alive, this tremendous power can be released. And the power that is released in an atom is only symbolical of the power that can be released in the human heart, in the human soul. And not only is it something that starts so small you can't even see it, but goes to become a great tree, so in man himself, while the beginnings of this process may be invisible, the greater part of it shines through the magnetic fields of the body, and in the course of ages, the individual becomes a great luminous center in this galaxy of ours, with which we are so deeply concerned today. If, as the result of our being faced, as we are now, with this decision, with armament on everybody's mind, with the money we need to live being used to make forms of destruction, as this goes on, and we try to figure how security can be achieved by mutual destruction, it must come to our realization that there has to be a better way. We are not going to disobey the laws of nature, and if from outside, somewhere in space, our planet is suddenly seen to have a little red spot on it somewhere, it means we have set off another bomb. But we will not destroy the planet. We cannot destroy anything that lives. We cannot destroy life by physical means, even though that means be nuclear fission. The only thing we can do with it is to cast that life out of body. We can destroy its bodies. We can destroy its cities. We can destroy its industries and its arts and its sciences. But we cannot destroy the life that is within any living thing. Even the sparrow cannot die, but it can become unembodied. And if through nuclear warfare it becomes true that many people will be forced out of this life, not one of them is dead. There is no death. There is only a change of worlds. We are all faced constantly with the challenge of this change. We are all faced constantly with the realization that all kinds of sorrows and mysteries hang over us, any one of which can take us away without much attention or notice. But we are not too much afraid of this because we believe in something. We believe in a life beyond, a life that is greater. We must face our problems of nuclear fission in exactly the same way. We know that while some may be sacrificed if the process continues, that nothing will die. The planet will not be destroyed. There will not be an extermination of the human race. There will be a destruction due to the fact the individual has deserved it from a complete failure to maintain the ethics which would have made this situation impossible. If the individual had lived by the Ten Commandments and the Golden Rule, if he had listened to the Sermon on the Mount and practiced these things, if he had been the type of human being that man is ideally conceived as being, we would never have this problem. We have this problem because everybody has done as they pleased, and they have not been pleased with what they have done. They keep on adding to their wealth and impoverishing themselves. They keep on trying politically to solve problems that can only be solved by integrities. And even as they go along, they find it difficult to find proper candidates for office who might be a little more honorable than they are. If the candidate is more honorable, they are afraid of him. If he is less honorable, they are afraid of him. Fear continues. All because in this great structure of human existence, we have simply failed to be human beings. We have simply become organized units of self-centeredness, and we are suffering as a result. Now, how far that suffering is going to go will depend largely upon ourselves. But there is also something else that we can, I think, believe, and Buddhism supports it, that karma does not fall unfairly. Karma does not destroy that which does not deserve it. Karma does not injure the virtuous. Now, there are two explanations for this. One which we would like to believe, and another which we might not like so well, but which is equally honest. We can say that virtuous are not damaged by karma for the reason that understanding karma and understanding themselves, they realize that the karmic reaction is just, that it is part of a process of learning, that unless the Lord chasteneth us, we continue to make us mistakes forever. So that we can say the innocent are not punished in the sense of the person who is bewildered, frightened, and believes that everything is unfair. On the other side of the problem, there is that the individual who does not deserve a certain type of karma, according to all of the Oriental philosophies and according to Christianity, the individual who does not deserve punishment will not be punished. And though there may be a great separation of the wheat and the chaff, that the virtuous person will stand. That heaven will reward those who deserve it. There is no malice in anything. Even in a great disaster, there is no malice. There is no hatred. The universe has not turned against us. All these things are part of a process of growing up. We start as small children, and like small children, we first of all are completely dependent upon our parents. Therefore, we regard these parents as divine. They are heaven sent. Then slowly as we get a little older, we begin to have minds of our own, and we begin to experience the emotions of egoism with which all human beings are afflicted at some time. We begin to find ways of escaping the rules of our parents. We try everything you can think of, including temper fits, to get our own way when we don't deserve it. These temper fits in society are wars, outbreaks, and common disasters. As we get a little older, we become more and more responsible for our own actions. We pass through educational processes in which as nations and peoples we see the consequences of our own conduct. And finally we enter maturity. In so-called maturity we are supposed to be able to rule and govern our own conduct properly. We become responsible for our own actions. Where maturity is not simply the right to go to X movies. Maturity is the right to live and to think on a level of integrities. But many persons do not take this. Young people growing up become more and more ambition-bound. They become servants of their appetites and emotions. They start going into responsibilities they are not prepared for. They try to raise families without the consciousness and dedication and sense of responsibility necessary to proper parenthood. So all the way along, these individuals are not growing as they should. Nothing is helping them to grow. Really, the parents are not able to handle the situation. The religious groups are no longer sufficiently authoritative. Education has failed utterly. And for most purposes, the professions and higher forms of intellectualism are a complete dead loss. Nothing has been done to help these young people to expand the divine quotient in themselves. They are not releasing the values that they have. They are blocking that release. And gradually this blocking takes over until they lose the power to release these powers. And as a result, drift through life to the end, and usually end dissatisfied, frustrated, and frightened. Now, human beings were built for some better destiny than this. There is a reason for us, and it would seem that the real reason is that we must attain our own integrity in life. somewhere in the future in front of us are responsibilities, opportunities, privileges, and cosmic relationships far beyond anything we can even imagine at the present time. We are going somewhere, and we must try to prepare for that journey. Now, if we are going somewhere, we come back to Marcus Aurelius. For according to Marcus Aurelius, when we start a journey, we must decide where we are going. We cannot simply drift along and hope that the tides of some cosmic ocean will bring us to shore. The moment we begin to live, we must begin to plan the reason for our own existence. And we have to follow two levels of thought. We have to prepare for our material existence here. And that should take the lesser part of our consciousness instead of the greater part. It is simply that we live here quietly and economically and simply within the providences of our opportunities and privileges. And if we lived moderately and economically and thoughtfully, there would be enough to feed twice our present population till the end of time. But instead of that, we go off on all kinds of tangents, waste natural resources, think of nothing but our own satisfactions and comforts, and have no plan whatsoever for the future. Internally, the higher aspect of our planning should be that we are planning a dedication. We should be deciding within ourselves the realm of service in which we hope to contribute to the good of all humanity. We hope sometime to be faithful servants in the house of the Lord. We hope that someday, in the due course of time, we shall come to a spiritual maturity, in which, having dedicated ourselves to those values which are real and eternal, we will gradually transmute all our potential into a potency for service, for life, for fulfillment, for growth, and for understanding. In other words, in a sense, we shall become as gods, knowing good and evil. We shall be dedicated to the service of the great plan which has produced us. We are not the result of physical or biological accidents. We are part of a cosmic purpose. We are born in this world to do certain things, to grow, to gain, to understand. We are here to temper our unconquered and undisciplined attitudes. We are here to make friendships and overcome antagonisms. We are here to be constructive factors in the social world to which we belong. And like the Hindu, we are here in order to pay the debt that we owe the parents who brought us here, and we pay that debt by bringing our children into the world and trying to give them every opportunity to understand the truths of life, which are the most important things in the world. We have a very simple way of life, but it can be extremely enjoyable. There is no discussion of penances or great tribulations or stupendous sacrifices. Rather, there is a simple statement that happiness is keeping trust with that great mound of cosmic energy that lies at the root of existence, this tremendous blazing star of the infinite. This is the thing that we must keep faith with. For as we do so, we come more and more into the experience, not only of the divine wisdom and the divine strength, but also the infinite love which governs and rules all of these procedures in life. We suddenly discover that this universe is also a kind of nuclear cell on the level of affection. For the time comes when suddenly the personal love that we have in this world expands into a love of all that lives. Again, a cell is split. A great release of energy makes it possible for us to gradually become aware of the infinite tenderness and mercy of life itself. Everything that we seek is gradually unfolded for us if we will live according to the rules of the game. And it is quite conceivable, to me at least, that the infinite that we are seeking lies locked within ourselves, and that a fission taking place results in a gradual release of a tremendous force, that there is more force locked within each of us than was taken to build the planet, that each of us is a tremendous center, and if one little nucleus structure in nature can produce the atomic bomb or nuclear bomb, then certainly the consciousness cell in ourselves is limitless. It goes on and on and on. There is no end to its growth. There is no end to the mechanisms that it can motivate. There is no end to the sensory perceptions unknown to us today, which can be sustained and carried and energized by this unit of complete divine force within ourselves. I know that words with this type of thing are extremely difficult. We can't say anything the way we would like to, because the words just do not seem to be available. But perhaps something of the thought can be carried over, namely, that each of us has locked within him an infinite potential for good, an infinite power to grow, and an infinite ability to become a completely cosmic, creative power, so that if the time should come, perhaps one day or another, we shall be transformed into suns, and then we shall have planets around us. Then we will be transformed into stars and become part of the great hierarchies of existence, and on and on and on, until at last we become one, completely one, with the great illuminator, the tremendous power that is the source of all things. And that union is not going to be a dissolution. It is not going to be the person drowned in the infinite. It rather will be a person rescued from drowning in himself and given the power and skill and energy and understanding and insight to be part of the great hierarchy of powers that populates the firmament, that goes on and on forever. Man goes on and on forever, becoming a little wiser all the time. And if he takes the adversities that he faces in the proper way and grows from them, he will find this tremendous release from within himself, leading him on to the end for which he was appointed. Just what that end is going to be, we do not know, for it rests forever in the infinite itself. But we know that it is the greatest good, and we know that this end is also the perfection of wisdom and the perfection of love, transcending anything that we can know in this world. Well, I guess that's it.